The Trump administration is under scrutiny tonight over the Justice Department's handling of the release of files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein today. At least 16 files disappeared from the DOJ's website, including a photograph showing President Trump. Hundreds of pages were also fully redacted, upsetting survivors and some lawmakers.
Todd Blanche just made a startling admission on national television about Donald Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. The same official who appeared on Friday claiming the entire administration would be breaking the law by not releasing the full Epstein files has now given us the clearest window into what they're actually hiding. And the evidence suggests it involves Donald Trump himself. He essentially admitted it, then appeared to realize what he'd just revealed. We're going to break down what may be the most problematic interview we've seen from the Trump administration regarding the Epstein files. But before we do, if you're finding value in this analysis, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the Mac Media and leave a like on this video. It really helps us continue this work. Before we examine how Todd Blanche inadvertently exposed Trump's potential involvement and connections to Epstein's victims, I want to start where Blanche did, with his attempts to justify why the administration has refused to release the complete files.
In the Epstein Files Transparency Act called for all files with limited exceptions to be released within 30 days. On Friday, the Justice Department released just a fraction of the overall Epstein files. Why didn't the Justice Department meet that Friday deadline?
Good morning. So it's very simple and very clear. The statute also requires us to protect victims. And so the reason why we are still reviewing documents and still continuing our process is simply that, to protect victims. So the same individuals that are out there complaining about the lack of documents that were produced on Friday are the same individuals who apparently don't want us to protect victims. So we're going through a very methodical process with hundreds of lawyers looking at every single document and making sure that victims' names and any of the information from victims is protected and redacted, which is exactly what the Transparency Act expects. That's exactly what Attorney General Bondi expects. It's exactly what President Trump expects. So that's what we're doing.
Well, you're talking about protecting the victims. The law directed the Justice Department to, quote, release internal DOJ communications, including emails, memos, meeting notes concerning decisions to charge, not charge, investigate, or decline to investigate Epstein or his associates. That's the crux of what many of the victims or the survivors say they want to see. Why wasn't that information prioritized in the first release, Mr. Blanche?
Well, first of all, it was. And there are numerous documents released on Friday that address what you just quoted from the statute, that address internal communications within the Department of Justice and internal communications between law enforcement and the Department of Justice. But it's for the same reason. Because many of those internal communications talk about victims. Many of those internal back and forth between prosecutors and law enforcement talk about victims and their stories. And that has to be redacted. And by the way, everybody expects us to redact that. So the same complaints that we're hearing yesterday and even this morning from Democrats and from others screaming loudly from a hill about lack of production on Friday, imagine if we had released tons of information around victims. That would be the true crime. That would be the true wrong. And if anybody out there, I heard Congressman Raskin, the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee releasing statements accusing Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel, and myself of not doing our jobs. If they have an issue with me protecting victims, they know how to get a hold of me. But we're not going to stop doing it.
That entire explanation was nonsensical, and credit to Kristen Welker for challenging him on it. But let me address the specific falsehoods that Todd Blanche presented in that segment. First, he claims there are victims the administration is desperately trying to protect. That victim welfare is the Trump administration's primary concern.
Talk about blacking out. I don't know if I can get a close-up of my phone. This is one of the documents that the Justice Department released. It's 100 pages.
Right.
This is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see. It's all black. It's just 100 pages of redaction. That's the transparency.
If victim protection were truly their priority, the administration could have released the Epstein files on Inauguration Day. They had full authority to do so independently. Additionally, the House Oversight Committee issued a subpoena that the administration has simply ignored. So let's be clear about that. And the suggestion that they're not shielding Donald Trump is absurd, especially considering that at least 16 items have been removed from the Department of Justice's website, with the administration revealing only about 1% of these publicly available files, while concealing information about Donald Trump. Two social media posts from journalist Aaron Parnas and Midas Touch completely contradict what Blanche just claimed. Journalist Aaron Parnas reported last night, a new Jane Doe Epstein survivor who contacted the FBI about Epstein in 2009 sent the following letter to the Department of Justice today after the agency failed to redact her name in their file release. Midas Touch also documented that the DOJ appears to have removed Donald Trump's name from allegations contained in this exhibit within the Epstein files. Trump's name appeared in the initial release. Now it's been blacked out. So they weren't initially protecting a victim's identity through redaction, but they subsequently revised their release to specifically redact Donald Trump's name.
The Act prohibits redactions, quote, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Has anything been redacted on that basis?
Absolutely, positively not.
Bullshit.
And that's another trend that is just simply false. There were a number of photographs that were pulled down after being released on Friday. That's because a judge in New York has ordered us to listen to any victim or victim rights group if they have any concerns about the material that we're putting up.
According to Blanche's explanation, if anyone, let's say Donald Trump or another White House official, raises concerns about a photograph or document, the DOJ must remove it from public view.
So we are in every way, shape, and form complying with the statute.
No, they are not abiding. And all three judges who released the grand jury material said that our law trumps the prior law. That's just common sense, Law School 101. Yet Todd Blanche is using a different theory that wouldn't survive first contact with any court, which is he's trying to say that prior laws override our law. That's not the way this works.
Which, by the way, is what President Trump has been asking us to do since before he was.
Blanche and Attorney General Bondi keep insisting that Trump has always wanted these files made public. But that's demonstrably false. Trump never advocated for releasing the Epstein files. He only addressed the topic when Fox News interviewers brought it up.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
After Trump assumed office, he employed every available tactic to postpone the release. He misled the public by repackaging previously available documents as Epstein files Phase 1. He became noticeably irritated when journalists continued pressing him about Epstein.
You're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is...
He had FBI personnel working extensive hours to remove his name from the documents. He reportedly pressured Charlie Kirk to cease discussing Epstein entirely.
I think the DOJ should immediately move to unseal all the Epstein documents in the Southern District of New York. I think every file should be released to the public the same way as the JFK files. Let the American people decide.
3 days later.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it,
He had Speaker Mike Johnson use the threat of a government shutdown to block a discharge petition. He called Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene disloyal for requesting transparency. Then, after Congress voted to mandate the file release, he signed the bill privately, which is unusual behavior for someone who supposedly wanted these documents public for years. So Todd Blanche's claims don't hold up to scrutiny. But what's particularly revealing about their justification for redacting photographs showing victims is what Todd Blanche stated when he essentially acknowledged that Donald Trump behaved inappropriately toward these victims.
Mr. Blanche, I want to follow up with you on what you just said. You were referencing the 15 files released Friday. They disappeared from DOJ's website yesterday, including this photo of what looks like a desk with a drawer open containing photos of Donald Trump. Just to be very clear, to put a fine point on it, why were these files taken down? You're saying it was at the direction of a judge?
Well, you can see in that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that there were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with President Trump. There are dozens of photos of President Trump already released to the public, seeing him with Mr. Epstein. He has said that in the 90s and early 2000s, he socialized with him. So the absurdity of us pulling down a photo, a single photo, because President Trump was in it, is laughable. And the fact that everybody's trying to act like that's the case is a reflection of their true motivation. But the reality is anybody, any victim's lawyers, any victim rights group can reach out to us and say, hey, Department of Justice, there's a document, there's a photo, there's something within the Epstein files that identifies me, and we will then, of course, pull that off and investigate it.
Are you saying that one or more of the women in one of the photos or several of the photos is a victim or a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein, and that's why you took those files down? And will they be put back up?
No, that's not what I'm saying. We, of course, if we knew that, if we believed that that photograph contained a survivor, we wouldn't have put it up in the first place without redacting the faces. But notwithstanding what we believe, we don't have perfect information. And so when we hear from victims' rights groups about this type of photograph, we pull it down and investigate. We're still investigating that photo. The photo will go back up, and the only question is whether there will be redactions on the photo. And of course, if there are survivors in any of the photos, we will redact them as Congress expects us to do, as President Trump expects us to do, and as the Attorney General and Director Patel.
So if Donald Trump appeared in photographs acting inappropriately toward Epstein's victims, and these are individuals seeking anonymity because they suffered abuse from powerful men in Epstein's circle, which would include Donald Trump, then isn't Todd Blanche essentially admitting that Donald Trump participated in this abuse? Isn't that the only logical conclusion? That if the women photographed with Donald Trump reported abuse, and the DOJ removed Donald Trump's name from those abuse reports, isn't Todd Blanche effectively stating that Donald Trump was an abuser? That the women photographed with him, some of whom we can't identify because many of those images were suppressed, might have been minors. He's identifying these as victims, the women Donald Trump was photographed with. So when he says we didn't redact those photographs because Trump appeared in them, we redacted them because survivors appeared in them, the question becomes, were they survivors of Donald Trump or Jeffrey Epstein? We obviously don't have complete answers because the administration refuses transparency. But based on the available evidence and Todd Blanche's own statements, this appears to be the most reasonable interpretation for why they redacted those photographs. Before he appeared on MSNBC and essentially implicated Donald Trump with this stunning and foolish admission, foolish at least for someone attempting a cover-up, I would have assumed they removed that photograph simply because it reflected poorly on Donald Trump. It does reflect poorly, but identifying those individuals as victims elevates the situation from looking bad to looking bad because he may have committed crimes. That's what we're dealing with here. And Todd Blanche continued damaging his own case when questioned about his decision regarding Ghislaine Maxwell.
Almost out of time. I do want to ask you about Ghislaine Maxwell, who was, of course, convicted in 2021 for her role in helping Jeffrey Epstein traffic his victims. In July, you interviewed her in Florida, where she was serving a 20-year sentence in federal prison. Just a week later, Maxwell was moved to a more permissive prison camp in Texas. Why was she moved just days after you interviewed her, Mr. Blanche?
So that's a Bureau of Prison Security issue that I will not talk about.
Did you have anything to do with it? Did you have anything to do with it?
Let me finish. First of all, I am responsible for the Bureau of Prisons. So every decision that they make lands on my desk.
So ultimately, it was your decision. You made that determination. That doesn't provide much clarity. You made the call because you remain Donald Trump's personal attorney. You hold a different title, but you're clearly still functioning in that role. Saying I made the call doesn't offer reassurance given what we know about your previous decisions on the Epstein files. Why should this situation be any different? And it's remarkably underexamined in this entire disturbing cover-up that Ghislaine Maxwell is currently living comfortably. She's relaxing. She's receiving food deliveries. She occupies a cell designed for 4 people, alone. She's doing yoga, playing video games, apparently having a pleasant time. Perhaps the most striking image I've encountered showed her taking a walk recently. This was about a month or 2 ago, in early October, in Texas. Ghislaine Maxwell was walking with an umbrella because the sun was too bright. She's a convicted sex trafficker, and Todd Blanche apparently decided the Bureau of Prisons needed to ensure Maxwell wasn't subjected to excessive sunlight. The administration allowed multiple Epstein victims to have their identities exposed in this release. The one justification they emphasized most strongly, their stated reason for withholding portions of these files, was protecting every victim. And they've already exposed multiple victims' identities. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell receives attentive care, completely comfortable in her facility. Yet they continue denying anything improper is occurring. They claim it's manufactured outrage because Democrats are paying attention. What kind of argument is that? Of course, people are concerned about an issue that's become critically important to Americans and has clearly become a source of anxiety for a president with serious legal questions. Why wouldn't that matter to people? That's not a credible response, but we shouldn't expect much better from Todd Blanche. He's going to continue creating problems for Donald Trump. We'll continue covering this story here at the Mac Media. If you want to support this work, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. If you've watched to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep demanding answers. Don't let them silence the truth.